Let's talk Tory leadership, and there's no doubt at all that battling over whether or not the tax cost of living issue should be tackled with tax cuts now or tax cuts later is one of the big dividing lines between Ms Truss and Rishi Sunak. But there certainly don't appear to be any dividing lines on the issue of migration. No, not us going on holiday through Calais or via Dover or Felixstowe, but coming to this country the other direction, and that's particularly those Channel migrants, where both Ms Truss and Rishi Sunak have said they would continue to support the Rwanda migrant policy, sending any potential asylum seekers and arrivals who arrive from France on those dinghies over to Rwanda for processing. Although the Rwandan authorities have said actually they're only looking at there ever being more than 200 a year to be taken. Let's talk to Stephen Wolfe. He's director of the Centre for Migration and Economic Prosperity and is a former MEP. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Julia.
Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, I don't think it's a surprise, given the popularity of the Rwanda policy among not just Tory voters, Tory members, but also the population at large, as much as the Guardian and the BBC might not like it, that both of the Tory party candidates have said they support that policy. But is that still a realistic policy, given that it's a policy that everyone supports, apparently, in the party, but not a single person has yet to be sent to Rwanda?
No one's been sent to Rwanda. The court cases are still out there trying to delay and prevent anyone from ever being sent to Rwanda. And it is a good policy if it ever worked, and if we had the numbers that would have been sent there, as we imagine they would be. What is key, though, here, Julia, is the recognition by both the leaders that immigration is a massive issue. And it's a massive issue for the Red Wall seats, particularly those Conservative MPs that have been supporting them, and the need to get those members in those constituencies backing them. And that is why I think very clearly that they have decided to attack this particular issue so early on in their leadership campaigns.
Yeah, in a way, this was one of those, you have to support it, whether you do or don't. But there's been sort of battles between the both camps, the Liz Truss camp and the Rishi Sunak camp, about, well, really, how much have you supported it? The Liz Truss camp claiming that actually, and loyalist to Boris Johnson saying that it was the Treasury sort of fought against this and really tried to stop this policy from happening. And then criticism of Liz Truss as Foreign Secretary sort of for her failure to deal with issues. But I mean, so much of this all comes down to actually, as it does with Calais and folks and the delays over the weekend, with the relationship we've got with the French and the EU.
Absolutely. I mean, it's very, very true what we hear about the Foreign Office. The Foreign Office has always been extremely pro-mass migration, because they like to rely on the figures of GDP, which is improved by huge numbers coming in. But GDP per person, or GNP, is really what most proper economists would look at, and that never really improves with
not only doesn't it really improve, that a few people can get an awful lot richer, but other people get poorer, and it would still look like those figures were good. And that's what we saw with mass migration, wasn't it? Great for businesses that had a long-standing supply of very, very cheap, freely available labour. But as we saw, wage stagnation for people at the bottom of the pile for a decade or more.
Absolutely. And then the pre-COVID period, post-Brexit, we started to see wages tick up, particularly at the bottom end, which was really an improvement for people who've been suffering for decades. And that's why I don't believe that when you look at the two candidates' policies, that those of Rishi Sunak really stand up, because it's very important. I can clearly see from someone who's drafted policies before like this, both for my previous political party, in the Vote Leave campaign too, is that they've got a very clever individual who's drafted Rishak's 10 points. But what is really important is how weak they really are. The first one is that it's really important, as we've discussed before, to remove the ECHR. His first point
is the European Court of Human Rights,
Yes, he's not going to remove the European Courts of Human Rights. He just simply said he's going to take some of the issues out of it that cause problems. And therein, in that very first policy, indicates where the weakness of Rishi Sunak's policies would be as Prime Minister. He's not determined enough, because that's a key issue for Brexit and a key issue for immigration control.
Well, indeed, I mean, lots of people have hoped that actually, the threat on that would perhaps promote some action. But the Foreign Secretary, still in the job, of course, at Liz Truss, said she would expand the Rwanda policy to other countries. But again, given that Rwanda hasn't even taken anyone yet, and we're still seeing the fight through on the legal side of that, which I think is, are we not due the end of this month to see some sort of resolution on that, we would hope? But then I'm assuming we'll just get appeal after appeal anyway.
Oh, I imagine whatever happens, then there should be an appeal. If the government loses, they have to appeal, and no doubt if the immigration industry's representatives lose, they will definitely appeal.
And it is an industry. I mean, that's the thing people forget. It really is an industry. It's not just the people traffickers making money out of this. There's a lot of money for the human rights lawyers and a lot of these charities. I mean, some people I think they're doing really, really good work, but you know, pretty much most of these people are getting paid.
It's approximately 500 million a year, Julie, is really what you get if you're part of the legal industry, if you're part of the non-governmental organisations and the charities receiving funding from councils and central government. So it's a massive amount of money for themselves, much more than the people traffickers are now making.
Yeah, that's interesting. But the reality is a lot of people will be watching and listening to this and saying, you know what, we get pledge after pledge and plan after plan and scheme after scheme, but at the end of the day, no one actually deals with these people. We saw over, I think on Friday, the revelation that hundreds of these people have not been processed properly. There's no record of them, no biometrics, no names, no nothing. Most of these people turn up without formal ID because they can't prove where they're from, so therefore you can't send them back anywhere. But these people just absconding from supposedly secure hostels and hotels and disappearing, some of them with weapons. We don't know whether these are terrorists or criminals. I mean, what are we? Are we hoping they're criminals, not terrorists? We don't know who these people are. I mean, and so many people are just sort of furious with the fact that we've got ourselves into this mess and this situation where even if someone comes here illegally, they commit crime, they're a threat to society, it could be rape or murder even, they go to prison and then they're still allowed to stay here. I mean, I defy anyone to think that this is a sensible way of running a country.
Of course it's not sensible. In no way, shape or form would anyone believe that this is carefully thought out policy where people from traffickers and, as I've been told off for saying it's smugglers is the real word, is that they're offering a package tour to the United Kingdom, knowing that once they get here, they'll never leave. And as you say, even if they commit crime, they're fairly easy to stay here too and rarely deported. The key issue that we have to look at is whether any of these particular candidates look as though they can pursue a policy that would actually try and stem this.
Yeah.
I don't believe those who want to deal with France, just like the Labour Party, Keir Starmer, are really being sensible, because it's never in France's interest to actually take any of those migrants.
That's never going to happen, is it? It's never going to happen. Stephen Wolfe, always good to talk to you. He's the director of the Centre for Migration and Economic Prosperity.